Welcome, 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 everybody, to another edition of Meet the Execs, exclusively on BlackStream Live on Twitch. I'm your host, Brandon Pankey. Make sure you're following and subscribing to BlackStream Live. It's been an incredible series powered by Windows and Intel Evo, working together, creating devices that are made to inspire. And speaking of inspiration, I'm excited about who we have today. She is an agent for ICM Partners. ICM stands for International Creative Management. She is an amazing agent, a powerful agent. You're going to hear her story. One of my friends in the music industry, and I look forward to having her on. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Ives Pierre. Ives, how are you?
I am good. I'm amazing. I can't complain. Things are really
wonderful
good.
To hear. Well, good. I want to make sure you share that with everyone here. I'm excited to have you on, and I really want to hear your story about being a booking agent, what an agent is, and really just get everything about your life and really history in the music industry. So the first thing we always ask is, what is that journey? How did you get to become one of the premier agents at ICM and really one of the premier agents in all of the industry, to be honest?
I got my start as a college rep, actually, for Def Jam when I was at the University of Maryland. And what I would do during the summertime, I would actually come home and intern in their office. And this is before they merged with Universal at the time. So that was like right around their relationship started with, Murder Inc. and Rockefeller Records and, the relationship with DMX. So that time of hip hop, that was probably 97. So, that was a special time in music, if you will. I think that time probably into the early 2000s laid the foundation for a lot of what we see today. A lot of benchmarks that people try to reach and things of that nature. So I got my start that way. And after being a college rep and an intern for Def Jam, that relationship led me to interning at Rockefeller Records, which then, turned into an actual job, which started, my trajectory in my career in the music business. So I worked at Rockefeller Records officially for 2 years. And after that, I started at Def Jam. And so I went back, home, if you will. And I worked there for 5 years. So that was from 2001 to 2006. And that was a special time because that was basically the tail end of Leor, Kevin, and Julie Greenwald being at Def Jam. And
Eve, hold on, I don't want to cut you off. But for people that need to know, Leor Cohen, Kevin Lyles, those that really made Def Jam what they were.
Yeah.
And I don't want to cut you off, but Rockefeller Records, Def Jam Records, historic, iconic labels in the music industry. I just don't want you to brush it off and keep talking because I think it's important for our listeners to hear that. But go ahead. Sorry.
So, that was a special time. I think when you think about certain things that are talked about today in terms of album sales, the transition from physical product to digital product, right? In terms of the music industry and the business of music actually shifting, that point of the change, I was at Def Jam for that, in terms of digital and Napster and figuring that landscape out, what led to what we now see as Spotify and those DSPs, what led to that. I worked at Def Jam at that time, and just seeing the business shift and transition was a special time. And so I spent 3 years officially under Kevin and Leor and Julie Greenwald, and my mentor Mignon SB at the time. And then I had 2 years in marketing with under Jay-Z and Ellie Reed. And, that was when Rihanna was signed. That was when Neo was signed. That was when Tierra Marie was signed. That was around the time that Chris Brown had gotten signed, and his sort of transition out of Def Jam to, where he is now. So those are like pivotal moments in music. So when I think about the artists that I worked with at the time, when we think about where I am today and in their careers, those artists are superstars. So at that, so worked at Def Jam for 5 years. And then I went into management, and I actually started working with Neo directly on his management team, because I had developed a relationship with him as I was at Def Jam. So I did that for 2 years. And then I worked with a friend of mine who I consider family, and a brother who also was a mentor, Jaha Johnson, and he was managing producers and writers at the time. So worked with like a group by the name of Electric Red, which that was like the first group that I actually can say like I was on tour with, right? And did a lot of the day-to-day management duties for them. And that's when I had met the Dream while I was at Def Jam, because that's when he had gotten signed through those early years with, Shakir Stewart and L.A. Reid. And after I stopped working with Jaha, he started managing the Dream, I went to work with the Dream for a bit. And the Dream actually led me to ICM, because the agent that we had hired to work on Dream's tours was the agent that I worked for when I got to ICM. That was the first, as my job as an assistant was under him. And that was in 2012. And that was the beginning of where I sit today. I was an assistant for a year and a half under Mitch Blackman, and promoted to coordinator, was a coordinator for 2 years. And then in 2016, got promoted to agent. I had signed my first client, Little Yachty. So that was part of that. But, I can say that for my story, a lot of the work in the business that I do today the foundation was built from a label system and a management system. And those relationships, I really held on to, really cultivated, because those were super important to me, super special to me. And I was able to use that as part of my toolkit in terms of as an agent at ICM.
Well, what an incredible career, even though it's really just kicking off, to be honest. But I mean, what made you go from sort of that label system to then becoming, a part of a management team, to then saying, I want to become a booking agent? Because a lot of individuals feel like they have to have it all figured out, but it feels like you stuck within this industry, but was able to maneuver into different sectors of it. Like, what made you want to keep making those switches?
I loved music. I knew that was my path. I knew I wanted to work in the business of music. In what capacity? I was always open to learning new things to figure out, whether it was a fit for me, whether I loved it, whether I liked it. I knew that I loved music. And that pretty much kept me going along the way. I just needed to figure out what was going to necessarily be my defining moment. And it led me to ICM, and I think I've been there for 9 years right now, and I've been able to do a lot of special things and work with my friends and have an amazing experience, an amazing career. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I love it. So this show is part entertainment, because I think it's amazing for our viewers, the BlackStream Live viewers, to hear all of these incredible and compelling stories. But part of it is education. Right. What exactly is a booking agent? What are the roles and responsibilities of a booking agent?
I think cut and dry. If you're just booking artists or shows, basically booking dates, whether it's in a territory, whether it's in this particular state, at different venues. When you think about where your artist goes to perform, whether it's an arena, whether it's a club, the behind the scenes of that deal that gets negotiated, the particular room that you're seeing them in, the particular market that you're seeing them in, that's all strategy, right? That's understanding the artist's demographic in terms of their consumer, where you want to meet people where they are. So where do those consumers go? Where do they live? All of that is strategy. So I think it's understanding the market, and I think it's understanding the client that you're working with, and a happy marriage of the two. So if you were just booking shows, I think it's understanding that, and then understanding how to negotiate, understanding the market value of the artist, understanding the temperature, the cultures, the cultural significance of an artist. I think it's understanding all those things, but I don't consider myself just a booking agent. I think that I wear a lot of hats as it relates to my clients. It's booking their shows. It's possibly having a publishing conversation, and if they need my help in plugging them in those areas. If they want to do film and TV, it's understanding how that works, understanding the work that they need to put into that, being able to effectively communicate that and find them those opportunities. It's understanding the brand market and understanding how they can drive sales for someone and understanding what that looks like. So I think it's a little bit of all those things. I'm fortunate enough to have a, knowledge base and a relationship base that doesn't just cover being performing in a venue, right? I come from the label side. So when I was at Def Jam, I worked in sales and I worked in marketing. I had to know brands. I had to know people at other companies, whether, liquor companies, magazines. That was part of me doing my job. So now that I'm in this space working with artists that still want those same things, just from a, direct level, it's being able to turn those relationships and turn those connections into their relationships and their connections by way of me. So probably a conduit, probably a connector, a little bit of all those things, and still understanding what my core business is, what they hired me to do. All those other things are just sort of extra pieces that I can sort of add to what we provide to our clients.
No, for sure. And I want those listening in to understand, like, sometimes those pivots that we take, those skills that we have that we can put in our toolbox can be utilized, for future positions or future opportunities in our lives. You're able to take everything that you've learned from a management perspective, from a label perspective, and incorporate that into your current position as an agent. And really, for all intents and purposes, be a super agent and able to plug in beyond just what the traditional role is. So I think that's pretty special.
Yeah. And, it's funny enough, I dealt with touring for Neo, right? Literally was part of his production team while we were on the road, in addition to my other duties. So understanding what it was to route on the artist side in terms of doing budgets, in terms of looking at mileage, what were overdrives and all those other things, to now have to put that into practice as I'm routing a tour from the agent side, and thinking, what does my client have to factor in? What money do they have to spend? Right. So as I'm routing, understanding those things and not just thinking about, it's just about the contract that we've negotiated and those things, I'm able to sort of add those other concerns, if you will, as part of my strategy as I route.
So let me break this down. What is, you're saying routing, what is tour routing? What does that mean? What's an overdrive? Walk me through,
routing is basically going market to market. Most artists, you're not going to fly everywhere, right? In terms of, if you had to go from market to market, it's super expensive. So in terms of being able to go from city to city across the country, you want to plot your dates. One where with what's being spent in mind. And when I say overdrives, you have to have a driver to drive you, right? And legally, you have to factor in sleep time, how much time a driver has to sleep to actually safely. It's basically safely. If you're in a bus or in a car, in a Sprinter van, and you're trusting someone to drive you from market to market while you sleep, while you do whatever, this person is in charge of your life and their own life, as well as several other people's lives. You want to make sure that they have enough time to rest, that they have enough time to eat, and all those other things. So as you're plotting your dates in each market, when you look at the mileage from city to city, you want to take into account, well, how much time do you really need? How much time is needed to be refreshed, alert, and on the road? And a lot of the driving time is at night. So you're driving in very precarious conditions and want to make sure you get somewhere safely. So you have to have a conversation of how much time is too much time on the road behind the wheel. So when you go past 8 hours, on a drive, that's considered an overdrive, because you think that someone, in terms of being alert, if they're going long distances, probably after 8 hours, that your level of alertness starts to decrease as you continue to drive. So it's taking those things into account as you plot artists going from city to city.
Got it. So I want to look at it from a macro level. I'm in another world, I'm a hit rapper. Let me see. I'm Lil Pank, right? And Lil Pank has a hit single. Panky in Philly does it again. Everyone goes crazy. It's a hit single. My manager is saying, Lil Pank, I need you to find an agent. We have to start, working on tour dates. And, how do I do that? What's that process for me as a rapper or me as a singer or any artist to find an agent? Like, how do I even begin that search?
In my honest opinion, I think it starts with making sure your music is at the toppest level that it needs to be, right? And understanding that everything that anyone does for you starts with your craft and your and that piece of commodity that then is going to get monetized, right? So I think it's one, honestly, making sure your music is right and your team is right, meaning effectively having a manager, effectively having a business manager, having someone help guide you through the business in terms of whether it's understanding contracts, whether it's understanding what marketing is, all those other things. Because, and I won't say necessarily a label, because I've signed artists that weren't signed to labels, right? But there was something about their talent and their music that had already started to draw people in and create a fan base. So at the end of the day, once you have that, now it's just about monetizing it and allowing you to now make money off of it and sell tickets. A hit single doesn't necessarily equate to the fact that you're going to sell 1,000 tickets or even 100 tickets or 50 tickets, right? So I think it's really sort of understanding where you are, and then whether it's having a relationship with someone that can put you in the right position or put you with an agent, whether it's looking at your favorite artist's agent and finding ways to reach out to them and showcase your stuff, whether it's taking the onus on yourself and looking at venue calendars of artists of your favorite artists and saying, hey, let me reach out to the venue and see if I can perform, because there's so many ways that agents find out about artists. They found about artists from promoters and venues. They find out about artists, through labels and lawyers and business managers, or just sometimes cold emails actually work. Like, I've had artists that have emailed me and I'm like, oh, I love this music. Let me share it with, my colleagues or, my other relationships. And what do you think? And it's having those sorts of conversations with people about how they feel about the music. So I think all those things work, but you have to have your music and your team right. And that's just with having someone that's going to really help guide you, and help you understand the business side of what you're getting involved in.
Got it. I want to backtrack to something you said. You said, even if an artist has a hit single, that doesn't necessarily equate to selling 1,000 tickets. What is that? I don't want to call it a disconnect, but why is that the case? If I would think as an artist, if I have a hit single and I have X amount of millions or billion streams, why doesn't that correlate into live performance ticket sales?
I'm a firm believer of consumers buy into an experience, or into a, well-rounded persona, right? You make them, you connect on another emotional level with them where they feel something, right? That to me is what makes someone want to see you perform, is they want to know more about you. They want to see you on a stage and all those other things. If all you're giving them is music and no other context to your personality or who you are, they're not buying anything. There's nothing else that they can tether to. There's no emotional connection that they can have. When we think about music and you think about the artists that you love and the music that you love, there's an emotional, actual connection to that. And I think that to me is what people buy into. So if you can't give someone or show someone who you are and your personality, and they find something that they love, that they can speak to and say, hey, I like to do that too. Oh, this person's just like me. I love their music. I want to buy into it. I want to go see them perform. If you can't show people that, you're going to have a really, really tough time in terms of having a career. It could be very flash in the pan and that be it. And those are the one-hit wonders.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. That's a great point.
Other context to who and what you are.
I hope the artists that are tuning in and really listening to what Eve has to say from a live perspective, because it really is about the experience, and people will buy tickets based off of that, or maybe just keep listening to your single and not going to your actual show. So keep that in mind, because pre-COVID and I'm going to be honest, probably post-COVID, once we're really getting back into live shows, a majority of an artist's revenue comes from touring and from those live performances. So it's super critical, and that's why someone like an Eve is really, really important for the the duration and the success of your career. So Eve, I want to ask you, Windows and Intel wants to know, where does your inspiration come from?
I guess I'm really a creative junkie, if you will. The creative process and the music really drive me. Like, I love to watch a record being created, or see a record being created, or see an album. Like, to see someone, it's really magical to see words put together to production, to being put out, and watch people actually love it as much as you do. Like, that process is something that's super special. So I would honestly say, if you're ever able to watch an artist actually create their craft, that will probably change your perspective of that. That keeps me in it. Knowing that seeing people create is what drives me, honestly. And I've been fortunate enough to sit and watch artists actually produce records, or be in the studio and work on records. So to know that that's what goes into, like, my favorite song, not to say that every client that I have now that I've been in the studio with, but to know what that process is to get to that point is what keeps me in it. To know that they put in that time and that hard energy and that work. It's the same thing as me doing my job every day.
Yeah, it's a special process. It's a very, very, very special process. If you're in the studio, if you're in there just watching them be creative and turn that lyric or turn that thought or idea of a song into an actual song, is all that. So I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
That keeps me in it, and knowing that that's the process.
Absolutely. We have heard from Eve. So Windows and Intel wants to know from everyone listening in, where does your inspiration strike? Make sure you're in the poll. I will be checking on this beautiful Lenovo computer powered by Intel Evo. Oh, I'm trying to upgrade myself, Eve. If no one else is going to upgrade me, I'm going to upgrade myself.
I'm a techie too, because I went to school for computer science, so those things also get me going as well. That's a nice one.
You're a nerd too. I didn't know.
I'm a nerd too. I literally went on my degree in computer science, did nothing with it because I love music so much, but I'm a nerd.
No, hold on. We'll work on an app or something. Let's table this conversation for when we're offline. So Eve, one of the simple questions that I know people are going to ask: who have you worked with from an agent side? Who are your current clients? Who are some of the clients that you work with? Because I think it's super important to know that you work with a lot of really heavy hitters in this industry.
My first two clients were Yachty and Rhapsody. That sort of cut my teeth, and then still work with them to this day. I also work with Migos. I work with LaKaylee 47. I work with Tank. I really honestly probably work with what I listen to and what I like. I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that. So like I said, Tank, I work with Tidra Moses.
Okay.
I work with Demetria McKinney.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've been able to really sign a lot of emerging acts lately, like for my love of music. So I work with Baby Rose. I work with Young Baby Tate.
Okay.
I work with an artist by the name of Q Marsdan. I work with an artist by the name of Rennie. I work with an artist by the name of Abby Jasmine, Azian. These
So
are all new emerging artists that I'm super, super passionate about and really, really honest,
yeah.
really, really happy to work with them. But it was really their music and their creativity that really drove me to wanting to sort of sign them. Not all of them had been at labels
Mm-hmm.
prior to being signed. Um, when I signed Baby Rose, she wasn't at a label. But I saw
Okay.
her perform at a showcase, and I was like, "Oh my God, I have to sign her." There's certain people that have music and fans that's just the extra piece of it. They've already they have a team that will help them put their music out and get to fans where they don't
Yep.
necessarily need a label to do that. That's just extra gravy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been able to sort of make that their path. And then they find a
Sure.
label down the line. Um, I work with rappers like Fabio Foreign, and Duke Deuce. So, I know it's a little bit all over the place, but I honestly love the music that they put out.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to work with them.
Yeah. We just tried to book Fabio for something, even, and I'll sidebar with you about that as well. So I have a I have
Wow.
a question.
Thanks.
Is it? Yeah. Oh yeah. We're putting it out there. Oh, we're putting it out there. I don't care. I don't even care.
Woo!
So, um, is it fair for me to say that you're selective with the artists that you work with as clients?
Yes.
Okay.
God, that sounds so nutty to me sometimes. Yes. Because I know for me,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to just sign everything. Like, you know, I don't want to just sign everything and anything at the end of the day, just because I still have
Mm-hmm.
to do the work, and I still
Right.
have to do the work for you, work to the best of my ability. And I never want to play like this is someone's career. This is how they put food on the
Yeah.
table. This is their livelihood. I don't want to play with, I would never want to play with someone like that, where if I'm just signing it to sign it and I couldn't do it to the
Yeah.
best of my ability, or my team couldn't do it to the best of their ability. Um, because at the end of the day, not only do you want me to book your shows, right? But it's about
Mm-hmm.
um, helping you reach your greatest goal and your greatest dream. So whether that's film and TV, whether that's branding, whatever those things are, I still have to
Mm-hmm.
help you get there. I still have to do my part in
Yeah.
that process. And if I fully am not committed to that, that's not fair to you. Where there could be someone else
Yeah.
that can really sort of do what they need to do to get you where you want to be. Um,
Yeah.
so I want to make sure that the passion that I put into it is the same amount of passion that my colleagues, because I don't do everything myself. I have a team that I
Mm-hmm.
work with. That same passion that I give you, everybody has to give you that. And if I can't
Mm-hmm.
confidently say that to you, then I might have to pass.
Got it. Is
Yeah.
it so the reason I asked that question is that typical of other agents in the industry where everyone is sort of saying, I'll try to work with artists that of music that I like, that I personally enjoy, or is it not? And I'm just thinking about the future agents that are listening right now. Like, what do they get to choose really, or is it you're sort of just given this artist on a typical basis?
I mean, some people, I think some buildings do that, right? I think some buildings
Okay.
have a culture where they let you sign what you want to sign, and
Okay.
they're just like, if you're signing it, make sure that the work is going to get done because they don't want egg on their face, right? I think
Right.
some buildings,
Right.
um, they might have more senior agents that sign things and then pass it off, right? In terms of bringing
Mm-hmm.
other people in to lead. Um,
Yep.
I think everyone has their own strategy that's successful for them.
Mm-hmm.
I just know that the time and commitment that goes into it to effectively do a good job And
Yeah.
I think you have to be passionate, because you have to really, everyone isn't going to have a smash record, right? So
Yep.
if it's not charting, if it's not whatever, it doesn't mean that it's not good. It just means that there's maybe some more work that needs to be done, or maybe that's not their
Right.
path. There's some artists that are not
Right.
going to chart, but that's not their goal to chart, right? They're still building a real fan base, dealing with their fans, and they're still building a legacy, um, based on having records that don't chart. You still have
Mm-hmm.
streaming artists that do really well that don't
Yeah.
hit these Billboard charts and things of that nature. There's still room for it, because there's still consumers that listen to different kinds of music, and they go to different
Mm-hmm.
kinds of shows. So you can still make money. So at the
Yeah.
end of the day, I don't that to me isn't my benchmark. I want to make you be as big as you want to be, right?
I
And
love
help you
that.
grow your
Yeah.
career and have a legacy and have longevity. That doesn't only come with just the music that you put out, right? That's brand
Mm-hmm.
alignment. That's, do you want to do film and TV? Do you want to score music? Do you want to have your music in films? It's figuring out what you want your career to look like, and then
Yeah.
effectively, hitting those benchmarks.
Absolutely. Y'all hear that, right? So as you know, your career is multifaceted, and this is for the artists out there. It's not just about performing and recording. It's film and television. It's branding. It's treat yourself like a brand and make sure you have an Yves Pierre or someone very, very similar, making sure that you're keeping your career on track and actually helping it grow and flourish. So Eve, let me ask, has
Hmm.
it been more difficult or not? Has it been difficult as a Black woman to
Absolutely.
continue to strive and continue to grow in this industry, and why is that?
Um, this the agency business, the core of it is old white men, right? Or men, period. Um, when you look at a lot of the agencies, you can count probably on one hand across the board how many Black women are music agents. And maybe there's 5 of us, right? There's 2 at my company. Um, so absolutely, because, you know, people think, like any other business, that some of these deals are not just made face to face or on a phone. You're in a, it could be in a strip club, or I'm running around hanging out or doing whatever. Like, a lot of these relationships aren't just built on 9 to 5, right? And
Sure.
we're gonna go have dinner, we're gonna go have lunch, and you're gonna come in my office, and I'm gonna sign you, and that's it. Um, so the culture of it isn't necessarily, um, built for women, right?
Mm,
Because when you mix alcohol, when you mix late nights and all those other things, that isn't necessarily conducive to being taken
sure.
seriously if you're a woman. So unfortunately, it has been difficult, right? If I'm not a man, oh, you know, she's not serious. She's not going to really go above and beyond and be out with you at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock at night, or be on the road with you. And, you get those conversations, or, she's a chick, so I could just say whatever or do whatever. It's not really that serious. So I think that part of it, makes it hard
Right.
in terms of being taken seriously. Because at the end of the day, you have to be very no nonsense. Like, you can't joke, you can't
Mm-hmm.
get too close to someone and all, because then sometimes then they think they can cross a line. So yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
But
And
I
and
think
and
that
you're okay. I'm sorry.
I could say, because I've built a career of probably being no nonsense and not sort of playing in those ways with people, and
Mm-hmm.
really being about my business and really being trustworthy and not allowing people to cross lines. Um, but this is what, 10, 15 years from working at labels to now being on this side of it. Like,
Yeah.
that's just been how I've been the entire time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe it's made it a little bit easier for me in terms of I don't have to deal with that piece of it. But then there's also been the, well, you haven't been in the agency business that long. you might not necessarily get it or really understand or know what to do. And it's just like, no, if I'm serious, I'm serious.
Right.
So, you know, it's
Yeah.
probably had some easier situations than not, and some more difficult than others.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. I mean, is that, you're a part of the leadership committee at ICM Partners now. Um,
Right.
what does that mean? What is the leadership committee responsible for? And does that help to change some of the sort of older, philosophies and principles that may come with the agency business and just the music industry in general?
I think that's the bigger part of it, right? But I think
Yeah.
it's part of my responsibility. But I think it's also about, when you think about top down, there's always some disconnect, whether it's a head of a department or, a partner or whomever versus an
Mm-hmm.
agent, an assistant or a coordinator or support staff, right? So it's
Right.
maybe bridging that gap a bit. Um, but also knowing that I started as an assistant at ICM, right? And
Mm-hmm.
understanding what what things I went through and the things I had to do to become an agent. It's
Sure.
understanding, that, and realizing that everyone doesn't necessarily need to do every single thing the way I did to be successful. So maybe
Yeah.
it's being able to guide and support the younger staff that want to be agents and want to grow and things of that
Mm-hmm.
nature, and probably
Yep.
making their journey a little bit easier,
Yeah.
providing a little bit more knowledge. And maybe it's a point where they understand or they realize that they don't want to be agents, but it's being that sounding board, and being that support, if you will, to sort of allow people to grow and basically pass on what I've learned, to the next generation, and make room for that, make room for more women of color, make room for more people of color. I know that's how I look at it, right? Like if I'm able to
Yeah.
sort of have this voice, um, and have people paying attention to me in the company that I'm working at, it's about knowing the deficiencies and fixing and helping fix those. No, I'm not gonna fix everything in a day, but that commitment to fixing it, I think is I have to have that.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. And I love that, FYI. So I want to lead off, and we're almost done for the day, ladies and gentlemen. But what would you say to the next Eve that wants to enter this industry? What is the advice that you would give someone, not even fresh out of college, let's say high school and it's in college and wants to be a part of the music industry?
You don't have to necessarily be an artist. That's not the only sort of career path that there is, in this business.
Mm-hmm.
But realize that it is still a business. Um,
Right.
money needs to be money needs to be made. Money is being made, and where do you see yourself in that food chain? Um, so yeah, don't be afraid to not be an artist. Be smart, be a nerd. Like that comes in handy. Like if you know you love it, intern. I'm a firm believer of that. Um, just start somewhere, um,
Yeah.
and probably also be open to pivoting. Right. I think my career has shown that I was open to pivoting, and that pivot led me to something greater. That pivot led me to another piece of knowledge that I'm able to really maximize and use to this very day.
I love
So
that.
yeah.
I love that, Eve. No, this is perfect. Anything you want to leave us with? What are you excited for? What's coming up from some of the artists that you work with currently? Anything at all? Give us some sneak peeks,
Um,
something.
Well, I'm super, super. I didn't mention this, but I work with Justine Skye, and she just dropped an album that was executive
Dope.
produced by Timbaland, and that was an amazing project. So I'm super happy for her. I have another client, Azion, that has an album coming out in September, end of September. Migos just dropped their album. Yachty's
Yep.
coming out with music. So, I think everyone used this time properly and effectively. I'm really excited about all the music that's coming out, on with my clients. To hear some of this music. And literally today, I was with an old client and they
Okay.
played music and I was floored. And just knowing that people are still creative and still excited about the work that they're doing is really
Yeah.
motivating. So yeah, I'm just really excited about this new music. I'm easing back into the whole show idea and being at shows. I have Rolling Loud tonight, so you know, easing back into
Yeah.
it because I want to be responsible and safe. But
Yep.
I'm excited to sort of get back to it and being able to commune and see people you haven't seen in a long time and kick it, and hang, and listen to great music and see fans, their reactions. Like
Yes.
that's also to me a big driver is I think you have a winner where you can see a fan's reaction to an artist on a stage. That light, the joy in their
Absolutely.
face, that's something else that you can't beat that. So being
No.
able to really sort of see that, is special. So I'm excited about that.
Well, two things. Eve, I was going to let you go, but you mentioned something. You said you were sitting with a former client, listening to their music. Just
Hmm.
briefly, just talk about how important relationships are in the music industry, because you said former client, you don't work with them anymore, but yet you're still meeting with that individual. Just talk, how important are relationships?
Oh, they're the backbone. I
Mm-hmm.
think they are paramount. If you are not about your word, and if you are not about cultivating and protecting your
Yep.
relationships, you will eventually either fail, um, or get a name that you're just not trustworthy, and you're
Mm-hmm.
you know you'll see limited. To me, my word is everything, and my relationships are everything, and what people say about me in rooms that I'm not in are everything to me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
those are super, super important because a lot of deals and things happen when you're not in the room, right? To
Yeah.
have a lawyer meet a client that they're just signing, and if they're asking for, agency suggestions and things of that nature, if someone can't speak highly of you, you can
Mm-hmm.
totally lose a client that way. Um,
Yeah.
so those things will make or break someone.
No, for sure, for sure. That is the way I want to close this. This has been, a phenomenal, phenomenal interview. I'm actually flying down to Rolling Loud for tomorrow and Sunday show, so I'll
Come
see
on
you there,
now.
Eve. If you have time for me, I know you're busy, and I'm just some guy that you know.
I better
But
see
no,
you
this
because
is
you owe me a drink for my belated birthday.
I mean, it was your birthday last week, and we'll talk about that too. But in any event, Eve, thank you so much. It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. Eve Pierre, agent at ICM Partners, and also part of the leadership committee with ICM Partners as well. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Eve.
Thank you.
Another awesome interview. I want to thank Eve Pierre again for being here. I want to thank Windows and Intel. With the Windows and Intel, you have more ways to work your way so you can do whatever it is that you're inspired to do. I hope that this interview inspired you, and we'll be back next week with another episode, another amazing interviewee. And I'm your host, Brandon Pankey. Make sure you follow and subscribe to BlackStream Live exclusively on Twitch. Everyone have a great weekend. Take care.
Good night.